Man, that ain't nothing compared to the rush you can get when you're killing somebody, man. You know what I mean? When you're looking in their eyes and you're seeing all that life just go right out of them, it's power. I hate people, man. I don't care. I don't give a shit. I don't give a shit about nothing. Nah. All my life, people fuck with me.
Oops.
Don't you fuck with me, man. I just fucking hate people. I hate people. And I don't care. I just don't fucking care. I don't care. No, I am the baddest motherfucker you ever saw, man.
Yeah! What's going on, everybody? Is everybody, can everybody hear me well? Everything sounding good? Let me know. Somebody let me know. All right, cool. I'll pretend you can hear me. So we have very first live episode of Jamming Out All Badass. My name is Francisco. This is the first one I decided to do. Figured what better way to do this than with Stevo of Impetigo, who will be on here shortly. He's already here. He's chilling backstage right now. But yeah, so before like I said, I'll bring him on shortly. But if anybody or just want to let everybody know, check out all the other episodes. I think they've all been pretty badass myself. Got some really cool ones. Got next Wednesday, or this coming up Wednesday, Walt from Rotting Corpse. I did an interview with him here a few days ago, and that's going to come up. It won't be live, but I may do another one live, depending on how this one goes. But hopefully we have a good time with this one. Everything goes cool. Hopefully everybody liked that intro. But yeah, another thing, just let people know about the channel. Been getting some pretty cool guests. Been kind of lucky on that. Just kind of help me out with that. Just tell all your friends about it. Anybody that may be into this kind of stuff. Still got a bunch of other really cool guests coming up. So let's get this rolling. So my guest, some of you may know him as the ghoul of the medical profession. Some of you also may know him as an employee of the street cleaner. To me, he's my baseball buddy. We talk baseball all the time. So without further ado, here he is, the
man. It's me.
Hey, Stevo, what's up?
I'm not much, not a whole lot. I'm blazing the northern sky here.
all right. Where you're not, I know you're not living in Illinois anymore. You're in Kentucky.
That's right.
So anyhow,
yeah, no, that's right. I live in the part of Kentucky where Stripes was filmed, not in the part of Kentucky where Justified is filmed, just to be clear.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Hell yeah.
So,
Stripes, classic.
That's right. God, I wish I was a loofah.
So, yeah, we got a few people in already, just starting. Looks like there's about 20 sickos there already. So appreciate everybody tuning in. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to ask some questions. Stevo's probably going to go over, show us some of his stuff he likes to jam out all badass to. Then towards the end, I'll give everybody a chance to ask some questions if they want. If they got any, just make sure they're not stupid questions. Because I won't show them. So.
Stupid questions rule.
Oh, okay, okay. Well, then,
one of my 10 favorite bands.
And we got I see we got Roy Fox in the house. We got Brad Sconder, loving the stripes.
Fuck yeah.
So
Sal Bando's here. Sal Bando, ladies and gentlemen.
Sal Bando. So anyhow, hey, again, appreciate you joining me, man. I know I've asked you a few times already, and I'm glad you finally got some time to do this.
Oh yeah, man, that's cool.
So just to get going, let's get this show on the road. How just to ask you, how did music first come into your life, like in your household? What kind of stuff was playing in your house? Who got you into music? Were your parents like into music? Like any kind of, were they musicians or anything like that?
No, not really. Like probably like all of us, but I like to focus on more of the people my age. You know, we grew up listening to the radio quite a bit. I lived in when I was a kid in Lincoln, Nebraska, and other places. You could get WLS anywhere. So you know, there's guys from Cardiac and Brad they probably remember. They probably remember just WLS. If it was playing on WLS, like you were familiar with it. They kind of ruled the airwaves. They were an AM station, and the low frequency meant you could get WLS just about anywhere. In fact, when I lived in Shreveport, Louisiana, I could still listen to WLS like after midnight, like after all the, I don't know, the waves weren't so busy or whatever, and yeah, Animal Stories, Uncle Larry and Little Tommy, and it was one of those things where you just listen to WLS all the time, and I was very young. See, I want to say it was about 1972 or 73 when I started collecting 7-inch records, right? Yeah. And yeah, BT, okay, yeah, Scott Carroll's there. No, and I just had I had some of my mom's old 7 inches, and I had mine. I'd go to you used to be able to go like to Kresge's or the pharmacy. You could buy 7 inches in the pharmacy, and yeah, I recognize this one from the radio, and I just kind of kept them and everything. And probably about 1975, I think it was, when I moved to Illinois. I had a couple of LPs. They were my mom's, and my favorite records of hers were the Ventures, right? I don't know if everyone's familiar with the Ventures. Yeah, they were 45s. This is correct, Tom. We called them 45s. Except for the Spider-Man ones played at 33. That could get more stuff on there, I guess. All right, anyway. I had some of my mom's LPs, and my favorite of her records were the Ventures. They were, if anyone's not familiar with the Ventures, they were a surf instrumental guitar band back in the 60s and whatnot, and that's when I really thought, oh yeah, I want to play the guitar. And I had a couple of plastic ones laying around, never really did anything with them, but I had about 5 or 6 Ventures records that I would listen to constantly. And then about 1975 we moved to Illinois. I went to a place called The Barn in Freeport. Don't go there, it's not there anymore, but The Barn was a waterbed store, a head shop, and they had records. And sight unseen, I went there with my dad, and I think my sister was with me, and I had some birthday money to spend, and I saw this album. Just these guys look like superheroes, cartoon characters, whatever, fucking smoke everywhere, and I'm like, Kiss Alive, as opposed to Kiss Dead, I guess. I don't know, Kiss Alive. And I was like, man, what the fuck? This looks great. It was a double album. It cost me $2.98, which is a lot of money. But yeah, and I picked it up, and the rest, as they say, was history. From that point on, it was Thin Lizzy, Alice Cooper, everything I could get. I did see actually Alice Cooper. Well, I knew him on the radio, but when we lived in Lincoln before we moved to Freeport, I actually saw the Welcome to My Nightmare thing on TV, and it had Vincent Price in it, and he was one of my favorites. And I just knew Alice Cooper from a couple of his songs they played on WLS, of course, but I thought that was badass. And I ended up getting that record, you know, not too long after that. So, you know, it's just that's pretty much the start of it. You know, I think for a lot of us, a lot of these guys, you know, that I know from the underground and stuff. And it usually started with Kiss, Alice Cooper, and that's fair. I mean, really, you know. For guys our age, that was it was larger than life. It really was. It was completely unreal. I mean, especially when you're you're what, 7, 8 years old and very impressionable. And when you see a Kiss album for the first time, you're that age, you're into comic books and superheroes and Godzilla movies, and it just blows your mind just looking at it. You don't even have to listen to it. You look at it and you're like, I gotta fucking have this. This is the answer to all my dreams, and yeah, it just kind of goes. It went south from there, obviously. So
cool. In school, were you like in like band or anything, like marching band or choir or anything like that?
No. In fact, I was a drummer. I was off.
He told me he was gonna fucking terrorize you tonight.
Yeah. Okay. Well, yeah. No, I wasn't. I played some piano. I took some piano lessons when I was a kid, but I was too infatuated with the guitar to really pay much attention to the piano. I was just kind of like, whatever, bing, bing, bing. I thought I was going to be a drummer though, and I used to. Like a lot of us, you listen to Destroyer. I'm 8 years old listening to Destroyer. I'm a record player, and I had a couple of buckets and pails and whatever I thought was drumsticks, and I was Peter fucking Chris, I had no idea what I was doing, just banging along, and I thought I was going to be a drummer, but my dad was kind of against drummers because my brother was a drummer, and he bought my brother a drum set, I remember, and but he didn't buy any cymbals because he thought it'd be quieter that way. Whatever. So I didn't actually play an instrument seriously. I just goofed around on junky acoustic guitars and stuff till I was 13. I wanted a bass because I was in a band. We were called Phantom Zone, and I was in a band. And this was in 1978, 79, something like that. I was in a band, and as everyone knows, when you're 12, 13 years old and you're in a band, everyone has their role, right? I'm going to be the singer. He's going to be the guitar player. They may not be able to play, but that's what they are. And I was the bass player in the band because we had 2 guitar players. So I wanted a bass. It was my 13th birthday. I'm a man now. Quit your bitching and give me, and I want a guitar. I want a bass guitar for my birthday. And what I ended up with was a Gibson S1 6-string guitar. I was wholeheartedly disappointed. I'm like, well, this sucks. I'm the bass player of the band, and all I have is a regular guitar. My dad kind of knew what he was doing. He said, trust me, you play this, and if you learn to play this, then the bass will come along as kind of a freebie. If you just start playing the bass, you'll never be able to play guitar the right way. And right. I trusted him as much as a 13-year-old could trust his dad. He bought me an amp, but he didn't give me a pick, again, because he didn't buy my brother any cymbals for his drums, thinking it'd be quieter. And I went and got a pick in a couple days. And I was, it was not too long after that. Yeah, I was into Kiss and like the Knack and a lot of AOR rock at the time, and some kind of getting into the punk. But I think it was when I saw the plasmatics on TV that my guitar playing really went to a different level.
Wow.
Not as in I wanted to cut it in half with a chainsaw, but I was like, okay, yeah, I'm here now. And yeah, I was kind of a fool there in the band. We're playing Cars and Kiss covers, and I'm playing the bass on my guitar. But my dad was right. I mean, you learn how to play the guitar, and then if you need to play the bass, it's just like the guitar, only not as chordy. So.
Well, you mentioned your dad. I have some pictures here that have been pre-approved. So
That's right.
let me let me bring those up real quick, and I want you to kind of tell me what's going on here with some of these pics I pop up. Just give me a sec. Give me a sec. All right, there we go. There we go.
Okay.
What we got here? Oops, wrong one. Go ahead.
That's my junior year in high school. So it was my first year living in Decatur. I'd lived in Freeport for so many years, and I was that was considered that haircut in Freeport was an offense punishable by violence. So me. Myself and a friend of mine, I called him Mick Lethal from his name was actually Mark, but I call him Mick Lethal. If you've ever seen the movie Breaking Glass, you know the joke. But his name was Mick, and we had this haircut, and we got our asses kicked all the fucking time. It was ridiculous. I mean, even before this mode, I had the pre-mullet. This is 82. And I had the hair, past my shoulders, but on top it was like this. And I got to. I remember when I moved to Decatur, and my friend the librarian cut out a picture. It was a comic from the New Yorker, and it said, and it's this guy with hair like mine saying, yeah, I got kicked out of school for having hair too short and too long. So, we never met. We never called it a mullet back then. I don't know who did until years later. But yeah, so that's me living in a city of 100,000 people as opposed to 26,000. And this was not an offense punishable by violence anymore. By that time, I suddenly was the cool guy in school. And and I did everything I could to ruin that. So,
all right, cool. Let me get another one I want to show. There we go. Now there we go.
Yeah. That's me and my dad. Actually, my stepdad. I have two of them. I had two of them. This is Mike. He's no longer with us. But this was also in Decatur. This is probably a year later. As you can see, I'm rocking the Joy Division shirt, and my dad's, pumping a log there, dragging, and that's my Pinto. If you look closely, you'll see the grills busted out, and that's because it was a '76 Pinto with 4 different colors of green on it, and a grill was busted out. There's you probably can't see that picture. There's a little plug-in hanging out, and this was the model where you could actually plug it in at night, keep the radiator warm if you lived in a colder climate like I did. Yeah, you see the leopard skin bandana hanging off the mirror. That was my youthful assault vehicle, purchased in Peoria, Illinois, and I just about died 5 minutes after I got it because if you've ever driven in Peoria, those ramps that get on and off the highways are kind of death. But anyway. I got 9 people in that car once on the way to school, and it's an experience I'll never forget.
Awesome. Yeah, that's all. That is a great picture. I came across that. I was like, oh hell yeah, I got to share that car.
And that was that hair, by the way. That was I cut my own hair, so.
Yeah,
it came in handy during the pandemic because I was cutting my own hair then too. I'm like, I got this.
Cutting your own hair.
Yeah.
All right. So transitioning from like hard rock and all that, how did you get into the more extreme music? Was there somebody like a friend, or did you just kind of stumble upon it, or
No,
how'd
it
that
was,
come about?
yeah, it was, well, like I said, it really starts at the plasmatics, right? I was always into a lot of hard rock and a lot of punk rock, and in Freeport and places all over the place. Probably not as bad in the Midwest as it was in other areas, but there was this huge division between, the rockers only listen to the rock and the punkers only listen to punk. And I listened to both, and I kind of, kept my head down. And I had a friend, I had a friend of mine named Randy back in about 79 or 80, a friend of mine named Randy who had just moved from Rockford. And Randy was Keel. Randy was a really, really, really huge AC/DC fan. And I had been reading about the plasmatics and Cream. We all read Cream magazine back then, boy howdy, and Circus magazine, stuff like that. But Cream was really, really, really stoned on the plasmatics at the time, and I used to read about them. And they were on Fridays. I used to know the date, but I can't remember it. But without going into the story, we had a Betamax tape recorder at home, and I recorded it. And this guy Randy came over and hung out, and I'm like, dude, you got to check this out. If you like AC/DC as much as I know you do, you'll love this shit. And I played this for him because for me, the plasmatics was the in the Venn diagram. It's where it's where the metal meets the punk, right? It was very metal and it was very punk. You can't argue against either being true. And he fucking flipped out. This guy, he got a mohawk the next day. He went all in plasmatics. I turned him on without even having a single copy of the LP at home. All I had was this tape. And we went to Rockford and picked up the record, and from there I was just these two worlds can coexist, and they do, because we have a saying that you're in a punk band until you learn how to play your guitar, and then you transition. And the plasmatics were like, there was no skill or finesse there. It was all out destruction. I mean, I still watch. I mean, Richie was a maniac, but when I watch the videos today, I'm always watching Wes Beach, right? Because Wes was the prototype of the death metal, thrash, grindcore guitar player. If you watch him, everything he's doing is everything from Assuck to Zoser Mez, all the way across. Wes really was the guy who fucking laid out the truth about how you're supposed to play attack death guitar, right? That's pretty much it. So I was always, and like I said, I was a young guitar player at the time, and I just wanted to be Wes Beach. That was fast forwarding a little bit, started getting into bands like the Dead Kennedys and GBH, Circle Jerks, and then Misfits, obviously. And it was kind of like getting into bands like that they really took the guitar element of punk, and the Germs especially. The Germs was very, 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 even before the plasmatics, the Germ was very metallic. All the riffs, the Pat Smear riffs, they're all very much, I'm sure there's names for the kind of stuff he played, but it was all very metallic. And that was why I liked the Germs a lot. I like bands like that where the guitars were more than, it was more than I took 3 lessons, or I just picked this up and I could play. I mean, you could play metal and still have no talent as long as you had the heart. And those guys, the way they played their guitars was kind of, that got me set up for when I heard death metal for the first time, when I started listening to some of the bands like, like Slayer and Death and Repulsion and stuff like that. When I met Mark, Mark turned me on to these bands that some that I had only read about, but some I'd never even heard about before. And it was like I was already into DRI and Corrosion Conformity and stuff. They were bands that took that plasmatics approach and said, you can't say this isn't metal, you can't say this isn't punk. This is what it is. This is real. And that was that's kind of how I got into that universe there. So
So you and Mark met obviously before the band joined. Was he already doing Uniforce when you met him?
No, actually. So yeah, when I was the Zoid, that's right. I was writing. I was writing. I was writing record reviews for the shitty dorm newspaper I had. I lived in a dorm at Illinois State, and I was into all this stuff, this, Crumbsuckers and Savage Grace. I was picking up all these albums. I was freaking out on this stuff, just big time. Metallica, Slayer, just going out of my mind. Finally, it's here. This is what I've been. This is what the Plasmatics said. This would be coming, and it's here. And I was just all in, 1,000%. And I was writing reviews of these records that nobody cared about. Now, keep in mind, I did this in high school. I wrote a record review column, and it was all records everybody hated except for me, and I didn't give a shit. And this dorm had this stupid newspaper, and I'm like, yeah, okay. So whatever, we need to fill up space. Well, I'll write some record reviews, and I wrote these record reviews of records, of course, that nobody liked. My roommates hated me. I played the shit all the time, just disgusting. And across campus, Scotty, who was Mark's roommate, I think the story is right. Mark, stop me if I'm wrong here, but I believe Scotty was part of the major dorm association where all the dorms got together, and I don't know what they ate, pizza, traded phone numbers. I don't know what the fuck happened in those meetings, but somebody from my dorm, pardon me, brought the newspaper, and Scotty was looking through it. It's like, oh shit, my roommate listens to this stuff, and he told Mark about it, and I'm like, my address was in there. Hey, Zoe's record reviews, right? Hey, drop me a line or whatever. And Mark actually wrote me a letter. Said, hey, hey, what's up, Mark? Thought your record reviews are cool. I'm a tape trader and all this stuff. Let's hang out sometime. And I called him right away, and he came over, and from there on in, he was my soul brother for life. It's never really okay. It wasn't Scotty. It was a friend of theirs in their dorm. But
and he says he can't remember anything.
Mark was like, everything changed because I had been in several bands before I met Mark, but everyone in a band was either like not really serious, and by serious I mean sitting down and writing 3 or 4 songs, right? Just that.
Yeah.
That was as serious as either that, or they just thought I was full of shit, and they just kind of went along for the ride, and I don't know, but Mark was Mark and I had shared a brain and never really knew it. It's kind of we felt the same way about music, and he was the first person I ever met who completely embraced my philosophy that there was no difference between punk and metal. It's just how you played it and what kind of and what kind of deal you wanted to do it in. So at the time he was writing I have my homemade shirts. Couldn't find shirts that expressed myself, so I took the Wendy Williams approach and I just made my own, right? Boom. But it was and Mark was actually, there was a local zine called Grinding Over, and it was run by a guy named Matt Rousey, who was the singer for a local punk rock band called The Outbreaks. And I was really good friends with Benji, who was a guitar player of The Outbreaks. And in fact, Benji and Shason, I think, were the guys who first turned me on to Slayer. I had never heard them before I met, I hung out with these guys, and they said, you're going to hear this shit. So, and Benji was kind of how I met Shason in the first place. Benji, he took me to a show at a place called Hell. It was in the Eddy building in downtown Bloomington. Don't go there. It's not there anymore. And it was it was like 6 or 7 bands were playing. My favorite was Brain Damage. And Benji's like, gotta meet Shason. And Benji was still in high school, so was Shason. I was in college. And it was around Easter. I was trying to quit smoking. I was having a hell of a time. Outbreaks were playing. And Benji said, oh yeah, here comes Shason now. And Shason had an egg in his hand and said, Easter egg toss, fuck you, God. And he threw the egg in the air. And I'm like, this guy's cool. So I started hanging out with Shason a lot. But the Outbreaks, Matt was the singer of the Outbreaks. And Matt was a straight up very, very, very interesting, very smart guy. I think if Matt had been in Chicago instead of in Bloomington, he probably would have. He might have been a name that a lot of you would have recognized for now, but he was like the rest of us. He's kind of stuck in Central Illinois, and you kind of had to do your own thing.
Yeah.
And that's kind of what we were all doing. And Matt had a fanzine that, well, he really wasn't, not that his plan was to get anywhere with it, but he'd put it out and he'd try to sell it, and everyone's just kind of like, oh, this is great. Yeah, it was Chasen from Master Fister. That's right. Chasen from Naked Hippie or whatever you know him. Anyway, Matt, Mark, I think Mark approached Matt, or they got together somehow, and Mark was like, yeah, I can do, I can put some interviews in a magazine, because Matt really didn't have a whole lot of content. And I think that issue of Grinding Over was 90% Mark Sawickas and 10% Matt just sat there and was like, this stuff is great. And I think it was this best-selling copy of his magazine ever. And I think Mark took one look at that, and I think he'd always wanted to do a fanzine. I think a lot of us have, but Mark was really serious about it. And much the same way Mark met me. He found the zine at Apple Tree, and he wrote to Matt, and that's how they got together. But I think once he took a look at the finished product of Grinding Over, he was like, yeah, I think it's time. And then I think that summer, Mark called me and said, yeah, I'm gonna do my own zine, Uniforce. And I was like, fuck yeah. And he said, here's what I want for the cover. And I sat down and drew it for him. And from the start, I was one of the most, Mark's kind of humble about it, but it was one of the more complete fanzines. He never really, he did reviews without sucking up to people. And at the same time, he didn't really trash anybody in reviews that bad, because for the most part they didn't deserve it. I suppose if they would have deserved it, he would have done it, but there was no reason for that. So he was really good at this just isn't my thing, right? Instead of saying these fucking people suck or whatever, And he also had the interviews. I remember when he called Kerry King from his dorm room at Tri Towers and interviewed Kerry King, and it was like 5 minutes, and Kerry must have said about 20 things, but that was huge, man. I'm on the phone with Kerry fucking King. Yeah. I still have that on tape too. It's fantastic. It was just great stuff. It was a magical time.
What's Apple Tree? What's Apple Tree?
Apple Tree Records.
Oh, okay. Because we used to have.
I remember they used to have Apple Tree Stereo and Apple Tree Records, and Apple Tree was one of Apple Tree was actually a good record store at one time, but once we started getting into the mail order and stuff in zines and Maximum Rock and Roll or something, Apple Tree couldn't hold us back any longer.
Yeah, it's funny because here we had Apple Trees, but they were grocery stores. So
yeah, not the same thing. A lot of Illinois people, and I think there might have been some in Wisconsin, but if you wanted a Bang & Olufsen turntable, you went to Apple Tree Stereo to get it, and if you wanted your records, you go to 8 Questions. Yes, Aaron from Merlin gave him Kerry's number. Kerry was calling him that, but think about that for a second. Aaron from Merlin, mystical, magical, right? Anybody remember Merlin?
Anybody?
Magic, come on.
Scott Carroll probably does.
Oh yeah, he does. Yeah, but anyway, so
yeah, cool. Mark always says he can't remember anything, but he's actually real specific on all these comments he's giving. So
Mark and I, if we were in the same room, if I forgot it, he'd remember it. Together we can give you the complete story, right? It's kind of like it was always, what was that guy's name? Mark, oh yeah, that was such and such. And then what we do that kind of stuff. Yeah.
Yeah. Scott said it was goofy shit. I don't know what he's talking about.
It was goofy shit, but it was great. I love that demo, man.
Before I move on, I want to show another picture. Let me find it right here. Found this one also. Talk about this picture right here.
Okay, yeah, that was a summer of '86, I guess. I just seen Metallica in Decatur, and that's my Zorlak
Yeah,
model
noticed that.
Metallica board. So I'm all Damage Incorporated. Got the elbow pads and shit. Fuck you if you don't like it. That's before I was wearing hockey pants. So I had all this stuff on my elbows. I didn't wear a helmet. I had my elbows and my knee pads, and I fell on the ramp, and there was a nail sticking out and sliced a hole in my ass. So that's before that happened. But yeah, that was Paul Grabowski's ramp. I think Paul's the one who's jumping in there, and Chris Long is standing. Zoom in on him, the guy that's standing up in the back.
All right, give me a sec. Give me a sec.
Come on, Mr. Technological Wizard.
Yeah, I know. I don't know about all that.
You're like a Watchtower song, right? You know.
There we go. Right there.
Runs in distress. Okay, see that guy standing at the top, kind of pointing at his head.
Yeah.
That is Chris Long, otherwise known as the Harbinger of Death.
What?
That's him.
That's awesome.
So Chris was one of the Dicey Mo's. We used to skate in Paul's backyard, and me, Paul, Chris, and a couple other people. And this was after I dropped out of college. So I was a lost boy for a little bit. Still in touch with Mark. This is about the time. Well, no, I hadn't dropped out yet. This is the summer before I dropped out of college, actually. I'm trying to get this straight because the summer of '86 and winter of '87 is when I dropped out for good. So this is before all that. And we used to there's nothing to do in Decatur. We go around, walk around and stuff, cemeteries, the usual. And Chris's favorite hobby was there was a couple overpasses on the West End, right? And Chris was he'd be walking around, he'd pick up he'd find an old softball, a chunk of concrete, a bottle or whatever. He's just lugging this stuff. We get to an overpass and we just stand there and lean over it, and a car would come by, Chris just dropped the shit on. All the stuff he'd accumulated while we were walking around, we're not drinking or anything. We hardly did that. We're just bumming around, nothing to do. And he would that was his thing. He'd just take all this stuff. We'd get to an overpass and he'd just sit there and drop the stuff on the cars coming by, try to hit most of them. And then we'd run like hell after all the stuff was gone, man.
Do you still have that Zorlak?
I sure do.
Oh, wow. You got it handy?
Yeah. Give me a second and I'll go get it.
Oh, sweet.
I know right where it is. I think I know where it is. Yeah, there it is. It's still fitted badass fashion. The bolts in the front are turned upside down so that your foot doesn't fall off. And then I had marked on it with pen. I wrote some of my favorite bands like Misfits, Gore, RKL, Spastic Blur, Poison Idea. There's Problem Children from Canada right over here. Hughes, Slayer, Yes, Dr. No, Wehrmacht, Cryptic Slaughter. That's a Lance Mountain sticker. Oh, there's E-Trope and Agnostic Front, Adrenaline OD, Attitude Adjustment, Crumbsuckers, and Skate 138, which was my thing. And here we got the Skate Honkies right here.
Sick.
And Dicey Mo's right there, like that. The Gore sticker. My trucks are going trucks. They're tightened down so hard you can't turn on them. And that's because when you're ramp skating, you got to do that. There's the old Craig Johnson sticker there that's messed up. There's still a regurgitation sticker on the tail there, see?
Oh, yeah, we'll get to that.
Yeah, yep. And then, of course, I did my own little artwork, and I put a no fraud sticker on Plus Heads guy there. At the top there, I think that there's a sticker there. I don't know what the hell it said. But anyway, that's it.
That's awesome.
Yep, still here.
Awesome. All right, so the first demo was live. Was it your intention to be a demo, or did you think of afterwards? Okay, I guess we can use this audio for a demo, or was it planned the whole time?
Nah, what happened was we played it was our second show ever, and literally we got a really really good soundboard tape on it. We had no money, and we're like, "Fuck, this is a demo." So okay, so and everybody was doing live demos for the same reason. You had good soundboard tape. You didn't just throw that shit away. You did
Right.
something with it. Now if you're a band and waiting for a deal with CBS, obviously, or Columbia or whatever, you're not gonna do a live demo. But we were like, oh fuck yeah, this is cheaper than going into the studio, and it sounded great. I
Yeah.
mean, I tell you what, I listened to a lot of soundboards in my day, and that one was exceptional. There was it was outside, so you didn't have the, one thing being mic'd louder than the other to make it work. I mean, what you heard was actually everything in the board was the way it was mic'd out there. So it was excellent, man. It just worked out great.
That's cool. I have something to add to that.
Yeah, that's
What's
a show.
going on here?
There we are. So it was this was a normal Parks and Recreation thing, and we had a bunch of bands. We had Impetigo, Naked Hippie. We had Leviathan from Peoria was there, and I think that was it. But anyway, yeah. So they had this stage that's on the back of a semi trailer, and we just they just opened up the stage. That's Shason's back of Shason's head there, I think, and or maybe not. His hair might have been darker at the time. Anyway, and we just played on the back of this stage, and fuck, that's us playing the song "Hey Jeff, What's Up," which was I was over at Mark's. Mark made a comment. I got to tell you about this. So I was doing a zine. Splatter zine, and Mark was doing Uniforce zine. Yes, Armageddon was on that show too. Yes, thank you. They did play. I thought there was 4. I just couldn't remember the 4th. See, that's Mark and I. We need. You should have us both on at the same time, so we'd be going. What was that guy's name? Oh yeah. Anyway, Mark and I were both doing zines at the same time, and we would just bring all our stuff over to Mark's place, and we'd do the layouts. We'd have all this stuff printed out, cut up, and everything like that, and we would just just get everything on the floor. And Mark had a space about this big on one page, and he just wrote "combat?" question mark. It was hilarious, man. But and we'd have the videos going. Mark was just getting into the video trading kind of at the time, and yeah, watching this Pillsbury hardcore video, and they were just playing the song "Hey Bob, What's Up?" Hey Bobby, 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 Bob, what's up? Oh, not a whole lot. And I just right away, it's like, yeah, that's going in our set. And if you give me 1 minute, I still have Ginger too. I'll pull that out.
Oh hell yeah! I like the show and tell shit.
Yeah, well, I have a lot of shit in my basement.
Yeah, I know.
It's a Kentucky fill chamber. So this is Ginger, the bass you see in that picture.
Oh
She's
hell
still
yeah!
with us.
Let me get you on there. There we go.
There's a little worn, war torn. The no fraud sticker, I don't know what happened to it, and I tried putting my address stamp on there, and that didn't work. But you can still see the old napalm death sticker is right here. It's kind of rubbed off. A couple of gore stickers, Poison Idea, Beyond Possession, that kind of stuff. But and these skull knobs were not on the bass back then. But yeah, it's just a cheap Lotus that I bought. If I got it for Christmas, 1986. I think it was $75. So I still have it.
Are those how old are those strings on there?
These are probably newer strings. It's a long story. I gave Ginger to a friend of mine
Ginger.
for posterity. That's why I call her. Her name is Ginger.
Yeah, it just makes me laugh.
I gave it to a friend of mine for posterity, and then a few years ago we were at Thanksgiving, and he gave it to my sister, and she had new strings, put it on these knobs, and she paid someone to do some work on it. One of the strings is already broken, but it doesn't play very well because the neck. Scott Carroll, hide your eyes. This thing is like a is very, very, very. The action on this is horrible. It's just it's bloated. It's a museum piece, is what it is. It's not an
God
actual
doesn't.
bass guitar.
God doesn't
You know.
know any better.
Yeah. Well, fucking yeah. It's a whole half step higher, go up to the neck. So you know. But anyway,
Awesome.
I still the Rickenbacker, but I'm not getting that out. You don't want me running all over my basement all night.
All right, so the next demo was a Giallo demo, and things got like a bit more extreme. What?
Hanging on the wall is what I'm going to do. Hanging on the wall. So yeah, Giallo was.
But yeah, you got a little more extreme. What was y'all's thought process like around that? What were y'all thinking at the time? What y'all wanted to do?
Well, 6 or 7 months before Giallo, I was thinking I wasn't thinking very straight. We kind of the live demo was a great. The progression we had made from our very first show to that was immense. A lot of practice. We spent a lot of time practicing, and yes. He does have the bass noose. All right, good. I forgot who got that, but I'm glad Mike has it because it's Dan Malin made that noose, Scott.
Nice.
Dan Malin made that. So Dan Malin was very good at making nooses. Anyway, and they were effective. The second we had a period of time there where I got a little distracted and I was experimenting a little bit and long story short, Mark set me straight on that and kind of indirectly hinted that we should go in a more heavier grinding direction. He showed up at my place with the Napalm Death Scum LP and a Carcass tape and a bunch of other stuff and we were sitting around listening and I'm like, yeah, I hear what you're saying. And we were kind of talking about, lyrics and we were talking about stuff and I think and we also decided we wanted a second guitar player. So we went from a 3-piece to a 4-piece and the whole thing, I don't think it took us very long to get it together again. We were once we had our mindset on something, it didn't take us very long to work it out, right? And it was kind of, Mark could not hit the high notes for Lion Sleeps Tonight, so he wanted to sing it. We're just kind of goofing off, and it's time for a demo. It's time for another guitar player. Let's write some new material, and we had written a couple songs, and a couple made it, a couple didn't, a couple got changed, and then Scotty joined very, very early '89, I believe, or no, it might have been December. I think I have a live show from December of '88. It was Scotty's first show, or maybe it was the Dismembered Penis rehearsal was a month after we recorded Giallo, so it wasn't before then. But at any rate, early '89, Scotty was in the band. We didn't have a whole lot of money, but we just scraped together what we could, and we'd found this joint in town and said, well, here's the songs we're going to put on the demo. Went in there and we saved a couple of songs for compilations, right? Everybody saves songs for comp tracks. So we released the demo and we were so out of money and we were just spreading it around. We were just spreading around as much as we could, actually taping over our own tapes, which is how the legendary PGLS demo was lost and gone forever. Mark actually taped over his own solo project demo and sent the tape to somebody for a review. And we were all in at that time. And the response was actually very good. I thought the response was very good. The compilation, I don't think the compilations ever really surfaced. We thought we were going to save those other 2 tracks, and we just didn't like the mix. What happened was we made the mistake of plugging the the guitars direct into the board
Oh yeah.
instead of miking the amps, and it just sounded fuzzy no matter what. And so we went back and remixed it a couple times and put out a couple promo tapes. And I think the overall response to Giallo was very good. I think the live demo was kind of like a, hey, we're here. And the studio demo was kind of like, okay, we're not going away. So there you go.
And the I never know how to pronounce it. Bui Omega.
Omega.
Bui Omega was just remixes, right? Or something?
Yeah, well, no, it was remixed just for the 7-inch. So we had done a remix in September of that year, and Mark told me that the guy from Whisper of Darkness, records, wanted to release some songs off of the demo on a 7-inch. He had done Nunslaughter, I think, and we were like, I was like, oh hell yeah, a record. I'm in. And so we went back and we remixed 4 of the songs and spliced them together just for the record, right? So we went back in there, did some more re-EQing and lined up the intros and the outros, and we spliced it together for the 7-inch and sent it. And Mark took care of that, sent it to the guy and everything. And it was not too long after that Richard C. called Mark, and he talked to me, and he said Richard C. wants us to do like a 12-inch EP or something with him. And I was like, oh really? And that's when we started talking to Richard, and the 12-inch EP became an album, and that was like 89. It felt like it was 5 years, but from the beginning of the year to the end of the year, I mean, by the time the beginning of the year, we were only a 3-piece. Scotty joined in February of 89. And then by the time December rolled around, we had studio time booked for our first album. So and I think the album actually came out before the 7-inch did, if I remember correctly. There was a little bit of a delay there or whatever, but it's all good. It was 89 was a big year. So.
Yeah, that was Matthias Wiegand, who was did Total TNT. Ecocentric Records, and he was also, or still is, the bassist in 7 Minutes of Nausea.
That's right. Yeah, we were talking about him. He's not an original member, though, is he? Did he join later?
No, he joined later.
Okay, because that guy was 7 Minutes guy was originally in Australia, wasn't he?
Yeah, Mick Collins was from Australia.
Yeah.
So, but no, they roll. That's one of my favorite noise bands. But all right, you touched on the album.
We're gonna copy all of their ideas on this next demo we're working on.
Oh yeah.
Can't wait to rip them off.
Here we go. This is funny right here. Where'd it go? Richard C. shut us down. I guess he didn't want to do anything with cyanide. Poor Scott.
Yeah. I don't know what to tell you, man. Richard C. knew the kind of bands he wanted to work with, and some bands, I think, quite honestly, he didn't think he could handle it, and his radar wasn't as good as he would have liked. He was a very hit or miss guy. Richard's thing was always like, I want to help you out, and he really. He knew who Mark was and what kind of reputation Mark had, and and I think Mark had talked to him a little bit. Mark just made a comment there. We kind of sent him something when Giallo first came out. I think we sent him a copy. He's like, but you know what kind of dude Mark is, and the zine and the kind of coverage he had, and I think at the end of the day, he just knew we were. He knew we would just bust our ass to do something worthwhile, right, and not just throw it away. And I think he was. I think he said, "Well, you know what? You guys record, pay for the studio and everything, and we'll figure something out." And I think then once things got rolling, I think once he heard it, he was real excited about it. So. Yeah.
Look who decided to join us.
Die, wimp. charge, Mazes, baby.
Yeah. Some Kilroy burgers. We'll get actually.
Is the doctor in? Is the witch doctor in?
Actually, that was it's funny that he just jumped in right now because on the first version of Ultimo, he's actually on the he's on an intro. Sal,
yeah,
from the prank phone calls.
That's right.
And they used to make like prank phone calls, and obviously record them or whatever, and they're hilarious. You guys ended up using one, but it wasn't used later on the reissues. But
right.
You got any Splatteria stories you want to share?
We were early adopters, very, very, very intense fans of Splatteria. And about 5 minutes after we decided we were fans, we fucking hated them. fucking wimps. No, I was a really, really big fan of the phone calls. I had 2 phone call tapes. I've only been able to find one. The one that we used a lot of the intros and stuff, I can't find that, but I found like the second one. But it's where Sal calls the Axiom.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. And he's like, "Shut up!" And he hangs up on me, whatever. But it's called the Axiom.
I'm sure Ruben still has those.
Yeah, but
I need to let him ask him to dig them up because he didn't throw anything away either.
We were just it was again, who is this?
Classic stuff, man.
I like the one. My favorite is on the second tape. There's this. He's the last few calls. Sal has the echo machine on it. So he's like,
oh yeah.
And it just kind of goes on, and you can hear the guy laughing. He's like, anyway, I don't know. We were big fans of and the music was it was like it sounds cliche now, but it really was true. It was like if you were into like the Napalm Death, Carcass, Extreme Noise Terror and stuff. When you heard Splatteria, it was pure. It was absolutely fucking mental. The bass sound was perfect. The drums were horrible. And and of course the vocals, it was just all, it was like kind of like I don't want to put him in the same realm as like Gigi Allen or whatever, but it was kind of like performance art. You guys all fucking suck. I mean, their live shows, are an example of that. It's like, oh, you guys fucking wimps, all this shit. And that was just kind of the stuff that's kind of stuff that we were really into. It's like, oh, they got the artwork, they got Carcass with the dollar signs, and it's like it was absolute fuck off music, and we just adored it, and we had to include it on the album. Did not know there was a racial slur in the background of that until after the album came out. So we unfortunately. Sal still hates my guts to this day for censoring him, but I'm sure he understands.
Yeah.
I mean, it wasn't for Splatteria, you wouldn't have bands like Anal Cunt and all this stuff who kind of basically did the same thing. I mean, Splatteria was more like the old 77 punk than anything else that was around because they just didn't give a shit. So
right. But yeah, I had to bring that up. On the Faceless, that's got one of my favorite Impetigo songs, "Sinister Urge." I think you've mentioned that was kind of something that Richard just wanted to put something out. You guys kind of put it together, or how'd that come about?
We wanted to. Well, not going into the details. The studio we used for the first album, it had the right capabilities, but the guy running it was kind of he was a nice guy, but he was a dumbass. I mean,
the cup guy.
Yeah, that pencils in a cup guy. Yeah, that guy.
Yeah,
so we had, Rough Mix. I thought sounded pretty good. I'm glad I saved the tape.
Yeah,
because it did sound pretty good, and and we just, you know, Mark and I were very, very thorough. We previewed our stuff, and that's the thing about me. I never listen to my own stuff. I listen to it. Oh, does this sound okay? And then I don't like to listen to it anymore. Hate listening to my own stuff. So, but anyway, and Mark, we'd listen to it in the car, you know, a tape deck, a regular stereo, and kind of like, and we just listened to it. We thought it's okay, but you know, we want the guitars to be a little bit more, not louder, but I think prominent was kind of what we were looking for, because you know, it was what we were into. I mean, all the earache stuff, the guitars were, you know, and we, everyone hates the recaputrefaction guitar sound, but we were looking for something like that, where the guitars were just, I mean, I didn't care if they sounded like shit. The guitars needed to be more prominent. I mean, that was kind of the whole, that was the balls to the wall approach. So we called him up, said, Kurt, I like the mix, but I think we can do better. And he said, okay, fine. Just come on in. What does he give a shit? $25 an hour is $25 an hour, right? Yeah. So we go back in there, and I'm just like, yeah, here's what I want to do. We want the guitars to be more prominent. And then he gave me this story about, well, you know, is mixing a recording like this. It's like, well, it's like pencils in a cup, and he gets this fucking cup with these pencils, and it says, you know, you can only put so many pencils in there, and then another pencil has to come out. And I'm like, you know, whatever. And Mark and I just looked at each other, and we're like, well, okay, whatever we can do to make the guitars more prominent. Okay. So his solution was to run the drums through tighter compression and turn up the guitars a notch, not really do any EQ with them. And that's, and by that point we were broke, and we were like, well, I guess it's something. It's not 100% great, but it, you know, it was, we were still happy with it enough to say, all right, let's go ahead and do this. We weren't gonna, you know, get all Glenn Danzig on them and grab our tapes and go somewhere else. Well, there was really nowhere else that we knew of, and that, you know, that's just the way it goes. So, so for the second album, we wanted to do something different, and I can't remember who. Actually, you know who it was? It was Dave Jost from KJ Studio, I think, that told us about it in Bloomington, where we recorded Giallo. Who he told us about Kurt at Creative Space. So, fucking thanks a lot for nothing. But I think it was Jost who told us about this guy in Champaign. Now, Naked Hippie had recorded their album with a guy named Willie Wells, whose studio was in a little barn or whatever near Monticello, I believe. And Willie and I was in the studio with them the whole time while they were recording the Naked Hippie album. And I was a little concerned about Willie Wells because all his shit sounded too clean. Now, it worked fantastic for Naked Hippie. That album sounds 100% crisp and brutal and raw at the same time. It's really hard to get an album that sounds clean and raw at the same time, but it is. I mean, you can hear it. The guitars are like fucking chainsaws with you know, teddy bear gloves on. I mean, it's incredible how good it sounds, but yet still in your face. The Naked Hippie album, that is to me the best of all the US hardcore albums that were ever made. Not just because I was there and I was involved and I knew them, but just because the material and the sound and everything, it's 100% start to finish, you know, nuts in your face. Hardcore, and it's no bullshit. We were a little nervous about working with a guy like that, but I think it was Jost that told us about this place in Champaign called Pogo, and saw this guy. He plays bass for the Captain Rat and the Blind Rivets, and I was like, yeah, Brad, exactly. That first Life Sentence record, it has the same kind of feel. It's just like a whatever, you know, let's grind this out, let's get it done and go. But the Pogo was, this guy was a bass player in a what do you call it, like a cover band. They'd play parks. It was like family fun, you know. They'd have little costumes and hats and stuff like that. But he had a studio, and I kind of had talked to a couple of people about him. He recorded a lot of local bands, and he was kind of a he seemed like, well, let's go talk to him, and he seemed to be a lot different. Willie Wells was all business, 111, let's go, and plus his studio was like 40 fucking degrees in the winter. I mean, we were going to be there in the winter, but the guy that can't control temperature in his big fucking barn, we're not recording an album there. Well, yeah, listen to me. You know, I sound like fucking Trey Azektos, don't I? Anyway, I'm David Vincent. I won't record in a studio that's 40 degrees. Well, whatever. Paul Speckman could do it. Why not, you idiot? Anyway, and so we went to talk to Rubel and loved his place. He had a vintage guitar store was in the front of the building he occupied. And he's like, oh, yeah, any equipment you need that we got here, yeah, you can use it. I know these guys pretty well. They rent the place from me, so we're good to go. And it was just impressive. And there used to be a movie theater there. So in the basement of this place, which is an old downtown building, so the basement's like 20-foot high ceilings, and it's all dirt floors, and it was like a cavern. It was like in an old Mexican Santo movie, you know. Every time he ended up fighting somebody, he's in this like it was the closest thing to a dungeon I ever been in my life. And I'm like, you know, looking around, chains and dead bodies. But there was signs and like letters from the parts of the marquee were down there, and it was all this shit. And I was just like, the vibe, God, what a millennial word. The vibe was real. I just thought, Mark and I thought, yeah, this sounds pretty cool. And we talked to Richard about it. Richard wanted to do an EP, and we wanted to do an album. We were just about ready for an album, but let's do an EP and let's record at this place and see how it goes, right?
Right.
You can't lose recording a 45, right? I mean, what could go wrong? So we paid for it ourselves, and yeah, we decided to redo a couple of songs from the first album. We played them a little bit faster at the time, and then we had written a song that I was pretty sure wasn't going to go on the album, but I figured, just for the EP, right? It'll be a 45 only song, and that's it, right? I mean, because it's all about being cult, right? So we went in there and it went very well. Rubel was great to work with. He's very efficient, which I liked because he's a little more expensive than Kurt Scheidenhelm, but he knew what we wanted. It's like, we want to be in and out of here in 3 hours. Okay, fine. And boom, there you go. I mean, that's what it was all about, right? So we've been playing around a song, Sinister Urge and Faceless. I thought it was a good idea when I wrote it. I said, this is great. This is like our Entombed song, right? Lots of riffs, you know, a couple different time signatures, a little bit of this, a little bit of that. The song was a nightmare. I fucking hated it, man. It was like, I didn't hate it. I liked it, but playing it, we were never 100% comfortable with it. And it was like, and Mark and I are very, you know, when the band first started, you know, we weren't on the same page once in a while, but once we got Scotty in the band and that phase in '89, what we went through in '89, we were on the same page all the time without having to put each other there. And it was just like, I think Mark's first guy to agree with me. It's like, after we recorded Sinister Urge, Faceless, we're like, okay, we don't have to play that one anymore. I mean, it was sorry, the lyrics, I thought the lyrics turned out great and everything like that, but it was too much. It was not, like I said, it was kind of an Entombed song, and that's not really us, and it was fun. I don't think it turned out sounding like an Entombed song. It's like, what do the Talentless Lads in Impetigo, what does their take on an Entombed song sound like? And that's how it came out. It was a fun song to write. It turned out well, but it just wasn't us, right?
Yeah. So, I still dig the shit out of that song.
It wasn't 100% us, is what I'm saying. Yeah, it was kind of long.
Second album. I think you and I maybe have talked about this before. can you talk a little bit about the vocal recordings on that you mentioned to me? Because I don't know if a lot of people know this.
Well, yeah. So yeah, Rubel and I had yeah. After working with him, I kind of had all these ideas in my head about how things should go, and working with a guy like we did in the first album, you can't do them. But this time around, I knew what I wanted to do. I wanted the drums to sound like this. I wanted the guitars to sound like that. I wanted the bass to sound like this, and the vocals were kind of clean on the first album. And like I said before, it's like I'm not into clean necessarily. So I was kind of talking to Rubel, and I'm like, I want the vocals to sound really nasty, like underproduced. And he's like, oh, well, you know what? I have this guitar amp over here, and there was like it was like a Fender as a Fender with, I think it had a 16 inch speaker in it, and it was blown. It had a blown speaker in it. And he's like, I think, let's try running the vocals through here. And I was like, yeah, I'll try it. So we put a mic in front of it, and yeah, we ran the vocals through a blown out guitar amp. That's our secret.
There you have it, kids.
And it did, and the vocals didn't sound clean at all, and that's kind of why it has that kind of murky, semi-distorted, if you will, sound without any weird studio effects. It's just the vocals literally were ran through a blown-out guitar amp. So
yeah, so there's gonna be a few people going out and busting some guitar amps so they can record some vocals out of them now, probably. So.
yeah.
But anyhow,
it was a good sound. So just like Repulsion, Scott Carlson double tracked his bass. This is no secret. You run one channel through the board and one channel through an amp, and then you can do whatever you want with it. Distortion on this, distortion on that. And fortunately, my Rickenbacker has two outputs, so I was able to plug it in, and we did the same thing. One went through the board, one went through an amp, and it was primo. It worked out great. Definitely, if you haven't tried double tracking your bass, you really should. It brings a whole new level to the way a bass should sound, which is like a concrete truck gone out of control.
I think you've mentioned that after that album, I guess you guys kind of, I guess shortly thereafter, you kind of just stopped the band. But you said because you didn't think you could, I guess, maybe outdo that album or do anything better. Is that? Am I right about that?
That was kind of always in the back of my mind. I mean, there's no question that we. Our most meticulous songwriting period was and we literally had written the songs in the order in which we had recorded them. So we kind of had the cadence already set up. We made a couple minor changes to the track order in the studio, but that basically it was, here's the first song and this is the second song. So it kind of played out that way more or less as we were writing and rehearsing the stuff. And I don't think at first I thought, oh, this will be our last. We had no intention of stopping. We had started working on writing a couple new songs. We were going to do a split EP with Blood Duster from Australia. And I think that Mark and I were planning on doing like a EP ourselves, like or a mini LP all about Asian horror stuff, right? Because Mark had just started getting into that, and he was, as always, getting me into it, and we thought that would be something that was really cool. I think the outdoing Horror of the Zombies was more hindsight than anything. I think that what happened was we were getting more interest in playing live, but all the interest was way this was I call the Day of Death era, because after a Day of Death, the mini festivals started popping up, and Fleets Fest of Freaks and Michigan Death Fest at a couple of, and it was, we had folks wanted us to come out to Los Angeles a couple times, and the overseas stuff was just turning, but it was a lot of it was one of those things where it's like, well, what do we want to do? It's very hard for me to explain it. I think Mark and I kind of both knew it was time without really talking too much about it. I mean, we didn't. It wasn't like one of those scenes in the movies where we met in some diner and I ordered pancakes and he ordered a pizza, and I said, "Look, I think it's time to finish this." The live stuff was kind of a hassle because Mark with Scotty, everybody had a serious job except for me, and it was just hard to conceptualize all of us, trying to go play this stuff. So we were just going to be a studio band. And I think that our last live performance was supposed to be the Milwaukee Death Fest in '93. I think we'd billed it as such, and we were just going to be a studio band then. But it was just kind of. I think we both just pretty much mutually agreed at one time. It's like, well, let's just give it a rest, right?
Yeah,
it's a lot of other stuff going on. So
I hear you.
yeah,
we've been running an hour and 15, so just take a little quick water break. I don't know if you're drinking anything. I don't know what you guys are drinking out there. You got it's seventh inning stretch time.
Taking a whiz. Yeah, that's a good point too. And a lot of other stuff was going on, and there was a lot of weird shit happening. And we just, it was just kind of time to say, we'll give it a rest.
Once we figure it out with Mark, I'm gonna have Mark on here too. So Mark,
yeah, Mark is Mark. Like I said, Mark's the best. And the day I met him, I was just like, man. This dude said, "This is if it wasn't for Mark, none of this would have happened." So, that's just the thing. But I see everyone wants to know about Planet of the Vampire. So that was one of the songs we were working on for the split EP with Blood Duster. We had two in the works. We had "Color Me Blood Red" with lyrics by Dan Malin. And they were fucking crazy. Mark may remember him. I still have him here somewhere. They were fucking nuts. We were going to do "Color Me Blood Red." We're going to do this Planet of the Vampire song. It was kind of like it was very incantation-y. We were really, really, really into that kind of stuff at the time. It had a lot of like, that kind of shit.
Yeah.
And I wish we had taped it. So you could hear it or something, but I don't think we were not taping our rehearsals at that time.
Yeah.
And I never, I think after the first year or two, we very, very, very rarely rehearsed with vocals. In fact, I think I have practice tapes of us right before we go in the studio, and it's just all instrumental stuff.
Yeah.
Never did vocals in rehearsal, mostly because we never had a PA. So it's like, what's the point?
Yeah, I think you told me you used to sing out of like a little amp or something.
Yeah. It's like when we did the rehearsals for the reunion show. Yeah, I had a little amp in front of me, so I could see how good I could fake it.
Well, there's a video on YouTube from like '89 of you guys rehearsing, and you can see that little guitar amp.
Yeah, that's the Dismembered Penis video. Yeah, we didn't have a PA. We were actually singing through a guitar amp. It was a crisis, but not really. I mean, we were doing our own thing, and that was what happened. That's how it worked. So
yeah. Speaking of live shows, I know you guys didn't rehearse much, and you really didn't play much, but you did play some pretty legendary shows, and I'm going to start off by showing this one. If you want to talk about this one a little bit.
Yes. Club Babyhead, the Fleets Festival of Freaks. This was this was quite a weekend. Unfortunately, Repulsion did not play. Something happened and they couldn't make it, and that was that. But this show was sick as hell. It was fantastic. We stayed at Fleets. We played. It's the true story. There was the night before in I think I looked it up, Francisco, and I told you about it. There was a show like Mortal Decay and a couple other bands were playing at this giant warehouse downtown in the
Yes.
area.
Yeah.
And it was, of course, that part of the East Coast. There's literally 12 large cities on top of each other, so you never really quite know where you are. And Fleet's driving us around in this van, and he's going like 110, 120 miles an hour all over the place. It was the only time. I ever saw Dan Malin have the look of fear on his face. He was just kind of like, "Are we gonna die here?" And Mark and Scotty are white as a sheet. We're all just like, "Holy shit!" But after about 20 minutes of it, you get used to it. And yeah, there was this big warehouse downtown. It was a complete badass DIY unofficial thing. There weren't even lights in this warehouse. They had a couple work lights like on either side of the stage. And Mortal Decay's practice spot in somewhere in Mass, like near New Bedford or something. And it was about, I think there's a couple hundred people there. And we just played a warm-up set, right? Why not? And so we played the day before the show. We played there. It was great. They had these little slider sandwiches. Malin ate about 100 of them. It was a really good time. That's awesome. Most guys like Roy Fox was there, and of course, and a lot of the dudes who were at the show the next day were there, and it was just a good time. And then
and it was $10. You had all those bands, and it was $10.
That's right. Fleet outdid himself. It was.
I don't know what Roy means by the swing.
And Richard C. flew us there. So this is the thing. Richard C. was like, "Yeah, this would be great. You guys need to go there," and he bought us plane tickets. And the last part of the trip, we flew in a puddle jumper. Let me tell you, I about shit my pants about 7 times, but whatever. I made it. Here, I'm living to tell you about it. And but it was Richard C. took care of it. We stayed at Fleet's house to help with the expenses. Yeah. So and that was legendary. Fucking Mark Mastro's sleeping on the floor next to me and farting, and his farts sound just like his vocals. Yeah, just bleh. And Ronnie Dio from Incantation, we are just fucking laughing our asses off because it's like this fucking noise, everyone's woken up for the slumber except for Mastro. He's just fucking sleeping through it. Sound like his fucking guitar amp. It sounded like the new Retrovore demo. And Dio and I are just laughing so fucking hard. And yeah, we did wheelchair races with Jim Fleet at the airport. That was a good time. Those guys are out of control. Such great dudes. Andy from Phlegm was that was that show. I got the blood all over, and Mark does too. And he's got blood on his forearms. That's a real badass look. And it was a great show. The vomit was exquisite. Relapse told us they wanted our next album to be on their label, and I said, we'll see. We have a pretty good thing going with Richard. Don't want to screw it up. And then I puked all over the place. And that shirt, I took that shirt off and changed my shirt, which I always did, and someone stole that shirt.
Oh yeah,
my Impale Nazarene shirt with the blood, with the puke all over it and the fake blood. So someone's got a trophy no one else has. I was kind of pissed off the moment. I'm like, you know what? I don't care. I have 1,000 shirts. So that's awesome. What can you do? But it was a great show, not without controversy. Scotty, we flew there. We had our guitars with us, but something busted on Scotty's guitar. Mark and Scotty and I were, we were all professional with the guitars in actual cases, and Dan had his pedals and his sticks in this giant cardboard box with duct tape all over it. It was great because this is before 9/11 and everything. But you walk through an airport now with a box like that, you are asking for trouble. And a big hockey player, redheaded dude with orangutan arms carrying around a giant box with duct tape on it. But something happened with Scotty's guitar, so we borrowed Tom from Phlegm's guitar. Didn't realize till we saw the pictures later that night and he had a swastika on it.
Oh man,
And, yeah. So
Andy Jones, I think, right?
Andy was the drummer. Yeah. Tom was a guitar player.
Oh, Tom. Yeah.
Yeah. Andy was, and Andy, if you're out there watching this, hey man, how you doing? I miss you, brother. Andy was one of my really good friends many years later online, and we were chat room pals basically on a metal website or 7. It was a lot of fun. He's a great guy. He actually, I got hooked on coffee milk when I was out there for Fleets Festival, and years later, when I reconnected with Andy online or early 2000s, he actually sent me a box with coffee milk mix in it, and it was great, man.
Awesome.
But yeah, so Scotty played that show with swastika on his guitar. And,
oh man.
And it was John Lee, I think John Lee was there. John Lee, great guy, super friend of ours. And after the show, he was like, shit, man, did you know? And I was like, I had no idea, So, yeah, they're like, no pictures, not very many pictures of Scotty with that guitar, I don't think. We didn't have to pay to get him burned, but it was just one of those things. It was like, oh, shit. I don't know, but it was such a fantastic show. All the bands are great. I mean, you fucking Phlegm. If you've ever seen Phlegm live and survived, raise your hand. They were it was horrifyingly awesome. It was great. Vital Remains, always a good time. Fucking Deceased, of course. I mean, everybody who played it was too bad Repulsion couldn't make it, but everybody was there. It was an amazing experience. So, yeah.
Another I guess I know you told me it wasn't your best show, but you guys played in Puerto Rico.
Puerto Rico, yeah. Well, yeah.
Nuclear Death.
Right, so that's me. I'm lusting after the lamp, and let's see. There's Scotty. There's Phil Hampson, guitar legend, and there's Lori Bravo, and the Nuclear Death guys. There's Danny. There's Mark with his Gorefest shirt on. I'm wearing a Deadhead shirt. Puerto Rico. It was a Psycho did play at the show. Mark is right, and they were fantastic. I didn't even know I was going to see Psycho that night. But anyway, this is our hotel room in beautiful San Juan, Puerto Rico, and we were all hanging out. As you can tell, Dan's really getting into it. Scott looks like he's about to fall asleep. I am really loving the lamp. Lori looks as thrilled as she could be. They Nuclear Death, they were great people. We really liked hanging out with them. It was really kind of I was I was in awe because I was such a fan of Nuclear Death, and I'd never really written to them or corresponded with them. I was kind of scared because they were kind of way out there, and I loved that, and I love that about them. And just being in the same room with them with me was an ethereal experience, and seeing them play was it was mind numbing. But I'm getting away from your question. We were really. Puerto Rico was awesome. It was a great time. Everyone there treated us like we were Morbid Angel or something. It was incredible.
Oh no!
Oh yeah, it's like it's raining like hell. Of course, it was monsoon season. The timing couldn't have been worse. We were supposed to play in this little baseball field in Las Piedras, and it's kind of funny when that show Eastbound and Down came on. And I started getting into that, and I read that they actually filmed the Mexican scenes in Puerto Rico. I thought, oh shit, is that the baseball stadium we were in? And it's not. But anyway,
oh man,
I know I was about to have my mind blown. I was like,
oh yeah, that'd be sick.
The day of the show, I rained cats and dogs, and if you've never seen monsoon rain before, you have never seen rain. It was unreal. I've never seen rain like that, and I hope I never do again. Yeah. We were in this van. I couldn't see anything. Somebody's driving us, thank God. There were people walking on the side of the road. They're shirts were all stretched out from all the rain, and they were driving us in Nuclear Death to the show, and we were supposed to play in this baseball stadium outside, and there was all the setup. It was pouring down rain, big iron gate all around this place. There was no way we were playing outside that night. It was buckets of fucking water. And so they said, it's okay, we're going to set up. There was a concession stand in an underground area, you know, like their concourse was underneath the bleachers kind of, and there was a concession stand, a big area down there. We were going to play down there. But I remember we got out of the van, it's pouring down rain, and there had to be 300 people standing outside in the rain, at least. I don't know. It was dark. I couldn't see much because of the rain. And we're unlocking the gate, and they're like, okay, Terry the Wall. Remember him, Mark? Terry the Wall. It's okay. We're going to open the gate, and you guys are going to get out of the van. You're going to get inside. And the gate kind of opens, and we kind of got our stuff, and it's raining. I'm looking around, and all these people are looking at us. And I just threw my fist in the air and went, ugh, and they all just flipped out. It was great. But yeah, that was our friend Ray at Thrash Corner, worked with Richard C. on getting us there. Yeah. And Richard took care of, Richard and Reynald, they took care of everything, and they were fantastic. And we were the first non-Puerto Rican extreme metal bands to ever play there. So I think Carcass played there a couple months later, but we were there first. So sorry, Bill. But yeah, Terry the Wall. He said, "Hey, you know, you guys should wear your own shirts when you're up there." Yeah, whatever. That wasn't happening. But anyway, so we get into this basement, and you know, all the good sound gear is out there under a tarp in between the pitcher's mound and home plate. They're not lugging all that equipment in there. So we're standing literally in this giant cavernous concrete, big concession stand. There's a couple bathrooms. There's a stage up there. And people are literally fishing for equipment. Like they got a couple guys from the guys, Freddie Cheeseburger, what was Organic Infest. I think they brought their drums and their guitar amps over, and they had been working on Plan B all day long based on how much rain was happening. Yeah. And someone had to hold the drum set on the stage. There was no way to keep the drums from sliding around. So what was the Nuclear Death drummer's name? The second one. I'm sorry, I'm drawing a blank.
I can't remember. Somebody look that up. What was Nuclear Death's second drummer?
It was Steve, wasn't it?
I don't know. Somebody call in.
Well, anyway, it could have gone better, but we had someone else's equipment there, and it was the weather was horrible. The attendance was definitely down, but like I said, we saw people on the way there walking in the rain to see us, and the equipment was horrible, and we just thought, you know what? We are going to give it, it was Steve. Yeah, Steve Cowan. I can't remember my own name. Go figure. Anyway, yeah, Steve. And it was like, well, Joel was the first drummer, and he was gone by then. It was Steve. So, and this guy's holding his drum set. In Nuclear Death Live, it was just like, they play like their records sound. It was chaos. It wasn't so great, but I could hear it, and it was just incredible. But we had monitors, we had none, and it was we made the most of it. And I'll tell you what, when we played, I couldn't hear myself, and I couldn't hear Dan hardly, and we couldn't hear each other. But we've been through this before. I mean, if you're playing in a band like this, the first 2 or 3 years of your existence, you play shows where you can't hear each other. So who gives a shit, right? We were pretty good. We were pretty good at not hearing each other. So we did a little body language, a look around here. Okay, we had it going now. And I want to say we played very well. I really can't remember because I was just, it was like I was on the clouds, man. These people were just going crazy. If we sounded bad, they didn't give a shit, right? I mean, it was It was such an awesome reception, and of course the best part of sorry I tell I'm puking during Red Wigglers, which is something I did,
Yeah, yeah.
and there was this guy down in front just like this the whole time. All right, he would not leave the stream of my vomit. He was getting baptized. He loved it, and everybody they just. Again, if we sounded like shit, they thought we sounded awesome, and that's all that mattered to me. It was giving them a real good show. That's a Milwaukee
Yeah,
Metal
but
Fest
I just remember
'92.
you mentioned like the vomit or whatever. So,
Photo by
uh,
Kurt Hubert. Yeah, that night
yeah,
it was much more. That's more like that's the beginning of the hurl. I think this was a very that Puerto Rican pizza is will make you hurl very thick and frothy like right. So
yeah, that's awesome. Uh, hold on, I got a few
you
other
were going to ask
pictures.
me. Brad wanted to know who my favorite Oakland A's member of
Oh yeah,
72, 74.
yeah. Talk about that while I
Say,
look at the.
I was gonna say Sal Bando, but I have Ron
Molly
Jeremy.
Fingers.
It's it's Harry Reams. It looks more like Harry Reams than Raleigh Figures here, but anyway.
Yeah, I got a picture
Uh,
of this dude. This dude, to me, he doesn't get the credit that he deserves. This guy is like the perfect guy for your band.
yeah, he was an
Dan
enigma.
was original as can be,
Yep.
and uh, just talk a little bit about Dan.
Dan was a very enigmatic person. It's like I said, I had always until I met Mark, I had always been in bands with people that maybe weren't really on the same page, but and Dan, I think it's fair. I think everybody knows it's no surprise to anyone that Dan really wasn't into death metal or speed metal or anything. Dan was I mean, Dan and I enjoyed the same music, but that music was not the kind of music we were playing. He was completely self-taught. First time I ever saw Dan play the drums was at a Naked Hippie practice when I believe Lance was their singer, and Dan was wearing no, actually they didn't have a singer. They were trying Lance out. Dan was wearing a catcher's mask, kind of like Raven. He was wearing a catcher's mask, and his vocals were more like, how do I say it? It was kind of more like SpongeBob SquarePants, real high pitched screaming, but Dan has natural talent. He is very athletic, hockey player, so he has unbelievable endurance. I've seen
Right.
that endurance put to the test when we played Electric Coffee and they had no ventilation, and it was like 120 degrees in there, and he almost I thought Dan was going to die that night, but he ended up being all right. But by the time Dan had picked up drums incredibly. By the time, I mean, he'd only been playing for a couple of years when, Mark and I decided to do the band, and we didn't have a permanent drummer and we didn't have anybody in mind. The only drummer we really knew that could play fast was Dan Malin, right? So, and all these songs we were playing had fast parts in them. So, and Dan was pretty quick to pick up on it. He, had a photographic memory as far as beats and stuff like that. So so Dan was our temporary drummer at first, and yeah, to Mark's point, a lot of our early shows we played with Naked Hippie. So Dan was playing 2 shows,
Wow.
and
Yeah.
Naked Hippie was a real workout for him. And at the time, a lot of our stuff too. But Dan was he was into real complicated rhythms, and he didn't. He was a kind of a savant in that respect. He didn't really understand the language of music. None of us really did. I barely read sheet music. I think I don't think Mark cares too much for it either. But and Dan certainly was not there. But I kind of got a relationship with him where if I wanted something to sound like this, I would have to translate it for him so I could get it close to what we really wanted it to sound like, and we picked up on that pretty quick. In fact, I think just to give you an idea of the way the rhythm in Dan's head is stuff you may see that, oh, I wrote the music here, and or Mark, and after a while it was like we all wrote it, but I used to like to give Mark and Scott and Dan credit when they came up with something in a song, and not just say all songs written by us. I wanted them to know that they had something to do with it.
Right.
And Dan is the one who wrote the real strange offbeat the part that starts "Bitch Death Teenage Mucus Monster from Hell." So
Yeah.
so Dan is Dan would play with the bass guitar. I mean, it's basically a percussion instrument, right? And he's he's on the bass guitar, and he just plays this, and he just plays this. And I said, that is fucking killer. That works. And I took the bass from him and got him behind the set, and I said, all right, play that on the drums, because he was playing on the bass what he would have played on the drums, right? I mean, he was just kind of playing with something else, and that's how the beginning of that song came across. He'd throw stuff in there like that, just way out of left field, and he was very. Sometimes I'd give him full rein. I said, play something warbly here, or do that cargo cult thing here, and he would throw it in there, and always make it his own. A very unique drummer, very athletic. He's more talented than he even knows or will ever know. That's just the way it is, right?
Yeah. I got a couple more here I want you to take. And thanks to Mark, by the way, for these pictures. I just took them from his page. So this here is probably one of the most classic Impetigo pictures. And I know the story behind it, but this picture rules.
The blasphemy couch photo. Yes.
That's it.
So we were, yeah. So, like, of course, everyone knows the couch photos. Ross Bay, Ross Bay is, Mark was very, very good friends with Jerry, and they were wild rags too. And it just, I think if you didn't know, they're ultra cult legendary now, but like Kelly is really cool guy. All those guys are, and they were really. We didn't really feel like they were the first of their kind. We just thought they were playing like the old Venom Bathory stuff, right? But they were really doing a first in their own sense. But
right.
the picture of them in their room with the bong on the table, the dude with his shoe up, fist in the air, the TV set held up by chains in the corner, and the paneling and the couch. It was we were actually taking pictures, and I think Mark said, "Oh, you know what? We should do like the couch photo." And so we went on to recreate it in our own sense. So yeah, Scotty's the guy on the end with the bong, and Dan's got the gas mask on. Mark's holding the skull, and I'm doing my Terror Train thing. And there's the stuff on the table. I think I thought one of us had our foot on the table, maybe not, but you can kind of see. Scotty's got his foot on the card table. But we had to make sure someone had their foot up on the table, and that did happen. Got Mountain Dew and Funyuns right there. There's a thing of milk, a stack of magazines. That was at our house that was at my house in 1602 Circle Avenue.
That's awesome.
And it was just we were taking some pictures and thought, oh, we should do the couch picture, and there you have it. That's our interpretation of
that's awesome.
The couch photo.
Yeah, that was cool. Let me see if I can get it. One more. We got to get this thing moving. Let me see. I don't think that's it. Well, actually, I have one, but it's not. You used to do artwork like for Impetigo and a few other bands, and I think this might be one of your more well-known ones, maybe. But this right here.
Yeah. So that is Yeah, that's so I was doing art and stuff. I did the, Uniforce cover for Mark, and I had been drawing for years, but I really kind of um I don't know, I really kind of, my work in '86 looked real boxy, and I really starting to get into it. And I was good friends with Jim Plotkin, and I think you've seen the cover for the first regurgitation demo. And I said, he's like, we're going to record another demo. And I said, well, if you need any artwork, let me know. I'll do it for you. He said, oh yeah, that'd be awesome. Go for it. It's going to be called Bathrooms Rule. And like, you should have a guy just like puking in the bathroom and all this stuff. And I said, oh yeah, okay. And I do it because when you're doing your own tapes, it's all about, you got to take that 8.5 by 11 sheet. If you want to put more than just a little piece on it, a lot of us thought it was less work to take a big single sheet of paper and fold it up, especially after Wehrmacht and Spastic Blur made that an art form, right? Instead of just cutting a little piece of paper out, put on there, use the whole sheet and fold it up so you can make it the tape cover. And Plotkin wanted to do that. So I said, yeah, well, send me the lyrics and I'll fire something up. And so yeah, I did the artwork on the inside and outside. And now I do want to clarify those dots on the outside around the picture. Plotkin did those because I don't know. I guess we wanted to add a border instead of. I think the original idea was the regurgitation logo was going to be on the spine, and then the Bathrooms Rule was going to be on the cover part. But at any rate, yeah, that's it. And it was. I think Turbo Records, if anyone remembers them, they put out the Beharit.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, they were originally called Shithouse Records, and they stole this artwork for their logo. Yep.
Wow.
Stole this artwork for their logo. It was the same as this, except it didn't say the guy's address was right there where the Bathrooms Rule is, and it said Shithouse Records at the top.
Wow.
Yeah, there's like a McDonald's bag. There's a chicken bones. There's a beer bottle. There's all kinds of stuff. So
it's crazy. I didn't know that. I didn't know you got ripped off even way back then. Cool. I don't know how more time you can spend here. We've been going for like an hour and 45 minutes already, but I still got a lot of other crap we can cover. So it's kind of up to you what you want to do. But we have I guess one question everybody always, hey, you're gonna interview Stevo, ask him about obviously horror movies and all that, but obviously we spent a lot of time already. But what was the one movie that you saw that kind of was your gateway? That movie that fucked you up or whatever, and made you say, "I need to go look for some more stuff like this."
Yeah, the movie that made me the man I am today is a 1972 film called Disciple of Death, directed by Tom Parkinson, starring the legendary Mike Raven. It's a true story. So when I first moved to Illinois, my parents got married New Year's Eve '75, and we moved to Illinois, Freeport. And I had a old black and white TV that the first thing that happened when we moved to Freeport was it stopped working. So my dad bought me another used black and white TV. And of course, Freeport, we could get all the Chicago channels. And my Chicago folks give a big hails to WSNS Channel 44 and the fantastic Monster Rally Theater. If you remember Monster Rally Theater, then you were truly #blessed, right? Because I was watching. I had been watching Godzilla movies on Creature Features in Lincoln, Nebraska, and a big fan of their horror host in Lincoln, Dr. Sanguinary, who I got to meet at a bank. And I had an autographed postcard of him, and I wish I still had it. I don't know where it is, but thrilled to meet the guy. Anyway, so of course, first thing I do when I'm in Illinois is I'm like, well, they got to have horror movies here too, right? That's not just a thing that happens in Nebraska. So I found Channel 32 and Channel 44, and Channel 44 at the time had a lot better programming than 32 did. I thought, and they had the Monster Rally Theater, which wasn't hosted by anybody. They just played this creepy song, and this dude walked in the street. I think you can actually watch it on YouTube, what their intro was.
Yeah.
But I think the first time I watched Monster Rally Theater, the movie was The Mummy. So I'm like, okay, this is great. And I think the second time, I can't remember the name of the movie, but it was the one where the lady picks up the binoculars and the nails pop out and hit her in the eyes. If anyone remembers that one, I saw that a couple. The thing about Channel 44 is I think they only had about 20 horror movies in their collection. So
Yeah.
after for about half a year, you watch Monster Rally Theater, you watch the same movies over and over again. And and the third time I watched it, now let's see, this would be I would be about 8 or 9 years old, maybe 8 years old, and this movie came on. Yeah, yes, Black Museum. That's what it is, Mark. Horrors in the Black Museum, something of that nature. Yeah. That's the one. And they had this movie on, and it's 10:30. It's time for Monster Rally Theater. They played the intro, and next thing I know, there's some writing on a gravestone, and there's a big fire, and it says, "Once upon a time, there was a disciple of death," and this creepy looking dude with a goatee, and there's all this fire going on, and I was like, what the hell is this? And they're playing a piece of music I had never heard before. It was Bach's, I know now it's Bach's Toccata and Fugue in D minor, but it was creepy as hell. You know, same music in Rollerball is what I told my dad. I said, I think it's the same music they used in Rollerball. And I think it actually ended up being the same. So, and that movie fucked me up. I was like 8 years old. 8 years old, and let's get this straight. So this guy is this satanic priest who's come back from the dead to have revenge or find a bride or something. There's an evil satanic dwarf that gets conjured out of nowhere that is ugly as hell and looks like he was rejected as an Oompa Loompa, and he's a flesh-eating guy. There's a whole black mass scene, and there's a heart ripping out and blood everywhere and fires, and hey, fucking Rob fornicator, what's up? There he is, ladies and gentlemen. Rob's in the house. Anyway,
I thought that was Ralph Furley for a second.
Anyway,
Oh, yeah.
Mr. Furley. Well, and it was just it had everything, and it freaked me out the first time I saw it, but in a good way. Now,
Right.
Keep in mind, until then, I think the coolest horror movie I'd ever seen on TV was Trilogy of Terror. Saw it on the NBC late movie or whatever it was when it came on, and that one messed me up. I couldn't, I could not look that Zuni doll. No, we were not going there. I couldn't. I was like under the bed. Nope, fuck that shit. All for the whole year after that. But this movie had everything, and I was just absolutely intrigued by it. I immediately started trying to, I immediately later on I remember trying to get into some British horror movies, and I never thought they were as good as Disciple of Death for a number of reasons. Maybe it's just the way, but at any rate, because Channel 44 would show it at least twice a year, I actually saw it 3 or 4 times over the next couple of years, and then I never saw it again. And I used to bring it up back in the video trading days, and it's like, hey man, you have this movie? No, never heard of it. Or, oh no, I've been looking for that too. And finally, a few years ago, well, more like 10 years ago, Billy Sarah Hales buddy finally set me up with a copy on DVD, and it was just as good as I remember it. And I think it's on YouTube now, so I sent you a link. But this is before Herschel Gordon Lewis, so all of the effects in the movie. The first time I saw a Herschel Gordon Lewis movie, the effects, the acting, the way the cameras worked, I thought, this is my kind of thing. And it's because of that movie, which wasn't like poorly directed, but it was that same kind of cheese factor that when I started getting into the real cheese movies later that I could never have seen when I was a kid for obvious reasons. it was kind of the way that movie was made and its setup and the whole pacing and the atmosphere was what I liked about Herschel Gordon Lewis movies when I first saw them. I mean, I think we were talking about it's like the acting in Disciple of Death is really kind of cheesy. I mean, Mike Rabin is an overactor from the school of overacting, but when I first saw Herschel Gordon Lewis movies, I'm like, why is everybody complaining about the acting in here? I think it's pretty good. And again, it was Disciple of Death to kind of set that bar for me. You know what I'm saying? I don't know.
Yeah. Yeah. If you waited years and you and I were talking about it, and you're like, hey, it's on YouTube. Like, you could
Yeah,
never
there you
get
go.
this movie. So I watched it, and I watched it the other day. So if anybody hasn't seen that or is interested, it's called Disciple of Death, and it's on YouTube.
Yep.
Right there for you to check out.
It's killer. Check it out if you haven't. And then, you know, yeah. Without Warning is another fantastic one. I don't know if it'll ever come out on DVD. Maybe it's on or never, but it took me years to find another copy of that, and I did finally get one from Adam Savage Master. Finally got me a copy on DVD, and that's another one that I saw it on cable, right? And I just like, this is badass. Jack Palance is in it, and you know, flying. It was another those type of movies. I wrote an article about it, Evil Speak, but those you know, Things Under the Stairs, like The Boogans and The Dark and Without Warning, those movies were a lot of what influenced the song Intense Mortification, and a lot of the stuff we did was stuff like that. You know, it was early Monster Under the Stairs movies, the late 70s, early 80s, great stuff. The Dark is a killer movie. I love watching that movie too. And The Boogans, I don't think it's out either, but I have an old VHS copy of that, and The Boogans is probably the best of the bunch.
Awesome. You guys, when you used your samples, was that all you or you and Mark, and how did you guys record them to be able to use them, like on an album or a demo or whatever?
Well, I think it was we were recording Giallo, and Mortician had just released their demo too, I think. And Mark, Mark had brought a tape of intros into the studio and said, we'll put some of the intros on there too. And I was like, oh yeah, that's great, because I think Mortician had the thing at the end where I think their only intros at the end is said, you think you die, you come to us or whatever.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? But Mark brought that. We brought and had this a lot of the stuff. There was a clip from Rawhead Rex and this movie called Chillers that he turned me on to, which was a lot of fun. And just kind of some stuff he had spliced from a couple movies we just been watching. And excuse me. And we were just put that at the front of the. Just put it at the front of the demo, and it made sense. It set the mood. I mean, we were about horror movies and stuff like that, so why not? And then after that, and it was, it was a good move. Everybody enjoyed it. And then after that, I think we we kind of. Mark would come up with a few. I would watch a movie and go, I got to remember to write this down, and I would collect tapes of samples from movies that I wanted to use. And Tom said, you put the mic to the TV. Yeah, first we did it like that, but see, then I had a stereo hooked up to my VCR in Gibson City in Bloomington, and we're getting ready to record the album, and I'm recording samples, and I'm taking them with the tape, and I'm kind of splicing them together, and there were very, very intentional edits and stuff like that for specific songs. I think, like, for example, Bloody Pit of Horror is it's a song about torture, so I think I used stuff from like both of the Mark of the Devil movies and Ilsa. It's kind of, there was some stuff going on there, obviously Maggots and the whole exploding flying maggot scene from Gates of Hell. That was a no-brainer. But for Horror of the Zombies, was probably my first premeditated the sample. Like I said, the songs for Horror of the Zombies were written in the order pretty much in which they were intended to be on the album, with a couple things we switched around. But I also knew what samples I was going to use for each song when we got done working on them. So, like for example, for Boneyard, I had this. Well, we did the Antifado 7-inch, and yeah, obviously I was going to do a sample from Cannibals in the Streets on there, and I think it might have been Mark that wanted to use the stuff from the Ghastly ones that said what acts of sadism would come from this knife or whatever. I think Mark, said, hey, we should use that, but by the time we had Horde of the Zombies going, we were doing premeditated samples. So I thought this song is going to be this, and Mortuaria, obviously I was going to use the thing from Flesh for Frankenstein, but the difference between Horde of the Zombies and the other albums was every song was going to have an intro, except for the Cannibal Ballet song, which was itself a huge intro. But every single one of them, we were going to have an intro, and we were going to kind of do it like that. And the only one I couldn't come up with anything with was I worked for the Street Cleaner. Now, I had originally wanted to do a clip from Necromantic, and it was mostly music, though. There wasn't any talking in it. And we already had the guinea pig one, which I think we had to. I think Mark can fill in the gaps here. I think we had to make sure he wasn't saying something like "Die, you white capitalist scum" or something. We had to make sure that he wasn't saying something like, "I love teddy bears" or "little kids" or something, because we didn't want any trouble from it, right? But we found out that it's like we had the flower of life and that kind of business. So the guinea pig clip was appropriate. That was the right one to use, actually. It went very well with the song, so I'm like, all right, we're going to do that. One I had trouble with was Street Cleaner. I want to do something from Necromantic, but we already had a foreign bird thing in there, and I'm just like, just music isn't going to do it. And I don't know, I can't explain every step, but somehow I went from point A, what am I going to do so I was this guy who is a nihilist, basically, and hates life, hates people, loves dead people. And I just thought of the Bone Crusher speech from Deadbeat at Dawn, and I thought, well, it doesn't exactly go with the song, but this could be the guy, right?
Yeah.
The guy, the guy who works for the street, that could be him. I fucking hate people, and I don't care. All my life, people fuck with me. I'm a necrophile, right? I mean, it could be him. So then all of a sudden in my mind there was a connection, and I'm like, it's perfect. It's perfect, right? Because we go from a serial killer to a necrophile, and that guy is actually kind of sandwiched in between. I mean, these are people. There's people, the intro of the song is people like me out to destroy human life, and here we're just going. We're going down the line, bing, 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 right? And that's the whole. That the Horde of the Zombies works that way. Side A is that's the side A thing, right?
Yeah.
Side A is serial killer, necrophile, crazy ass wizard of gore. You know what I mean? And then on the other side, we go to the cannibals and the grave robbers, and we end with the zombies. So it all flows, right? It was intentional.
Yeah, that's it's almost like we rehearsed this, because I was going to ask. I've never seen. I don't know if I mentioned this to you, but I've never seen when you're at a show and people start singing along to like lyrics. But when you guys did that reunion in 07, the crowd was like halfway through that intro, they started chanting the intro while it was playing, like over the PA. So that was kind of cool.
I guarantee you, I'd never heard anything like that before. In fact, I think what it reminded me of when the tribute album came out, and I think it was Impaled that did that song, and they actually recreated the intro, right?
Yeah.
Which was hilarious, and I think it wasn't. I'm drawing a blank. It's getting kind of late, I guess.
Oh.
But yeah, that it was the Raw Sewage and those guys. They did that song.
Yeah.
And they recreated the intro themselves rather than use the tape. And I thought that was great. I thought that's awesome. And then of course, that never happened when we were together. We never played the intros live. But fuck yeah, I'm sitting there going, oh my goodness, I can't believe this. These guys know it word from word. Of course.
Yeah. Yeah. That's your that sample is just like it's like a classic sample,
Yeah, it was a lot of fun to hear that, and yeah, like I said, I had no idea. Yeah, I was impaled. I was right. See, I can remember something. But yeah, it's just great because that is not a real likely that wasn't a real likely connection between the two, but it does set a great tone for what not only the song before but the song after, and that's what I was kind of looking for. The album's kind of like not it's an omnibus movie, right? It's like it's like a trilogy of terror, whatever, and just kind of boop, 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 you know. It's a feel. I've always been the guy like you don't just listen to one song in the album, you listen to the whole thing, right? So you want to make the whole thing go from side A to side B. So you don't want to listen to just one song or start with the
Yeah.
wrong side first. And although CDs kind of force you to do that anyway, but that was kind of what we wanted to do with that record, was just make it like we like the movies and stuff, and it had to flow kind of like a movie does, right?
Yeah.
High points, low points, fast parts, slow parts, that kind of thing.
Awesome. Man, we've been at it for a couple hours now.
Yeah.
I know you had brought some stuff, but maybe talk about. I don't know if you want to do that, or you just want to cut it here, or you want to take a couple questions from some people in the chat. I know I told them they'd be able to ask some stuff, or
Yeah,
whatever
we
you
can do a
want to do.
couple. Yeah, we can do a couple questions. That's fine. That's fine.
Okay. Yeah. So if anybody has any questions for Stevo, go ahead and ask them. Actually, Dylan from
Yeah.
Head Split just asked this.
Okay. That was I wish I'd broken a glass. That was a sound effects CD. So for the demo, we did the sound effects by doing reverse tape sounds and my gargling and almost vomiting a couple times. In the studio, I wanted to raise the bar, and I said, "Well, I want to do a sound effect thing." And Kurt had like a 30 or 40 different sound effects CDs. So all that sounds, the test tubes and the hissing and the door and the glass breaking, that's all from like 10 or 11 different sound effects CDs. And we just kind of multi-tracked it and just kind of threw it all together. And that was one thing Kurt was good at, was helping me do that.
Cool. Anybody else got any questions? Yeah, Dylan, we already you just asked that. I guess you're not paying attention.
Dylan from
Shit.
Head Split, man.
Yeah, he's disguster. That's
A
Dylan.
zombie. Dylan wants to hear a zombie Rob story. All right.
Okay.
Well, I can tell you about when Mark and Rob and Craig and I went to the Michigan Death Fest too. That was that was an excellent road trip. It was fucking great. Got to meet the guys from Autopsy and got to meet Will from Mortician for the first time, and actually saw Mortician with Will, Roger, and shit. Well, he died. I'm sorry, Nick, and I'm blanking out his name. Yeah.
Matt?
Fucking, that guy was a machine. He was amazing.
Yeah,
Just unbelievable. So that was like, saw them like, holy shit, that guy is the wildest drummer. I've never seen anybody play drums like that. And then Vital Remains played. My first time seeing them. First time seeing a lot of bands that I'd heard a lot. And then like Lucifer's Hammer, and I never heard of them. They played. That was awesome. And yeah, it's such a great show. So many great bands. But we all drove, and we all drove up, and Rob is. It was always fun hanging out with Rob because we had kind of met Rob and Craig. We'd reconnected with Rob and Craig by accident years before. Mark and I went to see The Accused in Champaign, and Brotherhood played, and this band opened up for him called Disciples of Hate. And Mark and I thought they sounded just like fucking Repulsion. I mean, it was just like we were freaking out. We were just like, we were on the side banging our heads. Everyone else is kind of wandering around, at Central Illinois. And after the show, we're just like talking to them. You guys are so fucking awesome. And talked to the guitar player and the drummer, and they seemed just kind of like, oh yeah, whatever. And years later, Rob got a hold of Mark, and and said, "Oh yeah, this is Rob from Disciples of Hate." And I was like, "Oh fuck yeah!" And so Rob and Craig, we were friends with them from that point forward. And I remember Rob, and he's like, he says, yeah, he said, "Watch this." He said, it was getting really late. Alex from Cannibal Corpse, the guys from Incantation, Mortician, Autopsy, we're all in this room. You know, it was just all these dudes are in this hotel room at like a Budget Inn or something. Greg Mattingly made the trip up from Louisville, one of my good friends. And Rob says, "Fucking Craig hasn't slept for 4 fucking days." He says, look over there. We look in the corner, and Craig is like leaning up against the wall sleeping. And I mean, there's like 30 people in this room, and Rob's just like, "Fucking, that's genius." Rob was a hilarious guy. He's the one that named the band Master Fister.
Master Fister.
So yeah, there's a band Master Fister. Shason was in it, and Rob, I was with Neil. Neil was in Church of Misery and Naked Hippie for a while. Neil and I went to go see Rob in the Quad Cities, and we're at Rob's place. We're watching a video, and you know, it was a video, and this guy walks in the video, and he's got all this black plastic and latex and rubber all over him, and he just kind of walks into the room like this, and Rob turns around and goes, "This guy is the Master Fister." And fucking Neil goes back, and he's, you know, months later, he's starting a band with Shason and these guys, and he says, and they can't come up with a name, and Neil says, "We should call the band Master Fister." And they did. There were a couple demos and an album. It's like some people thought they were called Mr. Fister, but you know, I don't know. It was hilarious. But
Evan wants to know if you listen to anything new.
Oh yeah. I listen to a lot of new bands. I really like. You know, I guess they're not so new anymore, but Cardiac Arrest's always been one of my favorites. I like Crypticus a lot, and Ruin are fucking awesome. Cemetery, and those guys are wimps. I really like you know, Mulder. You know, Chicago is always where it's at. I could go on and on about you know about that stuff, and but one Coffin Dust. I like Coffin Dust a lot. Great stuff. Faith Extractor, of course. They're one of my favorites. One band that I just got totally turned on to out of the blue is DOBBINS. If you have a chance to hear them, they're out of Los Angeles. Francisco, I sent you some of that shit.
Yeah.
They are hails to DOBBINS. They are fucking fantastic. It's great. The guy, you know, I was gonna sing on the album, and I didn't have a chance to get it together. So unfortunately, you know, that didn't work out. But he was nice enough to send me the album, and it is fucking outrageous. He's Diane Weller's in the band, and he says he's really influenced by us, and I can hear it, but I can't hear it to the point where he's copied us. It's down there. It's what you expect out of a band like this. There's a lot of Autopsy in there and that kind of stuff, and they are really fucking excellent. So there's thousands more, I'm sure. I like I don't know. I do listen to more older stuff than I do newer stuff, but you know, that's, you know, off the top of my head, those are some I've been listening to like in the last week or so. And Bode Preto from Brazil.
Oh yeah,
fucking fantastic. That's great stuff.
I know the answer to this. No.
Probably isn't going to happen. Sorry. I mean, you know, it would be fun. It would be fun. I'm not going to sit there and say that I don't want to speak for Mark. I think we both think about it and go, yeah, it'd be a good time. It's just so hard to get together, you know. It's Scott has bushmeat and hasn't listened to it yet. You better get on that. It is really fucking intense. Their first album's great too, but he's like, oh, we're much happier with the second album. And he's, but no, it's too hard to get together. I'm several hours away from everybody else. I'm sure if I called Mark and Dan tomorrow morning and said I wanted to do something, I'm sure they'd be up for it. Scotty, I'm not sure where he is right now, but we've often joked about just showing up at the cardiac rehearsal space someday and just saying, hey, you know what? Let's play a few songs. And I'm not going to say anything like that's never going to happen, but it's with my work and family. It's so hard to say I can do that, So.
Well, I always joke, but you guys can come play in my living room whenever you get the itch, just for me. So yeah, Scott Carroll. Well, he was here. I don't know where he's at, but he's definitely sitting on his couch. I guarantee you that.
I think so. Yeah.
Anyhow, man, I guess we need to go ahead and I guess wrap this up. It's been a while.
Okay.
It's been a long time. So I mean, I could sit here and chat all day long, but
yeah. Yeah, I'm out of water and I'm in my 50s, so.
All right, well, man. Well, once again, thanks for everybody for tuning in. It was a lot of fun. I think I'm gonna do another live.
It's a good time. Yeah, you should get Mark on here because Mark is the coolest of all people. His memory's better than he gives himself credit for, I think. But like I say, you get the two of us in the room, we can remember everything. But Mark is just Mark's always been. Mark's always been 100% thinking about, thinking about everybody. He's always approachable. If you ever run into him, it's like I always tell people, it's like, back when I used to be on Facebook, I haven't been on there in a year, but I used to suddenly see I'm going to Reggie's to see such and such. I'm saying, well, Mark's going to be there. Be sure you look out for him. And I'm always telling people because everybody knows. Then go say hey to Mark, and I can't say it enough. He's the greatest guy. If you don't know Mark, you don't know nobody.
Yeah, I've asked him. We're working on it. I think he'll.
Yeah, that'd be cool.
We'll make it work. He's real, humble and all that. So tell him all the time.
Well, he's just a good bloke down on his luck, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Chop.
But yeah. But yeah, I'll probably do another live show sometime soon. So anyhow, appreciate everybody checking in, and all
right.
Thank you, sir, for
stay sick. Thank you
for hanging out for 2 hours and 17 minutes currently.
There you go. That's all right.
That's insane. So
I can't feel nothing in my ass, but that's all right. I ain't using it anyhow. All right, y'all. Hey, everybody. Oh yeah, Veers is on there too. I saw your name earlier, man. Hales. Fucking A. They got the pens changed. Mark, they got those Depends now with the padding in them, so when you sit here and talk to Positive Pulido for 2 hours, your ass doesn't fucking turn into a board.
Yeah, we didn't really scratch the surface on a lot of things I wanted to talk about, but
yep.
Oh well, I guess maybe we'll do a part 2 with Mark and Stevo. Maybe that'll work. I don't know.
Yeah. I always looking forward to hanging out, and it works out and everything. And hails to everybody who got on there. Yeah. Fucking baseball. Woo-hoo.
Yeah, baseball, man. Baseball. Yeah, we need to do all baseball.
Game. I went to a game this week. It was a scrimmage, but man, it was like just watching it on TV, man, it's not the same thing. It is not. I'm telling you right now, just being there, fantastic. But yeah, awesome, this is great. Jamming out all badass. You didn't start with your theme song. I'm a little disappointed.
Well, I'm new to this live stream, but
okay.
We can definitely end it. We'll end it like that. How's that? Yeah, no baseball. Sorry.
This song. Yeah, that's all right.
Sorry, Mark.
I'll play along. How's it go? Jamming out all badass, right? I got your SG here,
hold on. Let me find it. Let me find it and we'll get out of here.
Tell is if Aaron Pankey's still on. Hey, when are we gonna do Face of a Clown, huh?
Oh, there we go. All right, here we go. I got it. I got it loaded up. Let me get it on here. And we'll tell everybody goodbye and all that stuff. Here we go.
That's awesome. Song written, recorded, and produced by Positive Pulido.
Yeah.
All instruments by Positive Pulido. Represented by Positive Pulido Management.
Yeah, somebody asked me, who's that band? I said, that's not a band. That's just me doing everything.
That's me.
Anyhow, good night, everybody.
All right, take it easy, everybody. Woo-hoo.